Welcome to the Happiness Contribution Show with me, your happy host, Rosaria Cirillo. On the show, we talk about the various roles happiness plays in our individual lives and in business, and about the benefits that being happy brings. And we share knowledge and practices about what contributes to our happiness. Join me and my guests on this happiness journey together, and get involved by visiting our website at happinesscontribution.com. Welcome to the Happiness Contribution Show. I'm your host, Rosaria Cirillo, a little Italian ball of energy, passion, and enthusiasm, living in the Netherlands since 20 years, with a Dutch husband and two kids of 10 and 12 years old. After having spent 20 years in customer experience, in the last few years, I embraced more the field of happiness, and I'm now both a certified customer experience professional and a certified happiness trainer. I'm a speaker, trainer, and corporate advisor on all things customer experience and happiness, and I'm the author of Yellow Factor. And today, in the today episode, I have the pleasure of interviewing Daniella Rubinovitz, artist, author, life coach, art therapist. She has a life coaching certification from CTI and a very long list of art education. She has a Bachelor of Art Therapy degree, a Master of Technology Management degree, a Master of Industrial Design degree, and a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. And she creates international public art in her historical studio located in the heart of Amsterdam, where she also facilitates intuitive painting sessions. And that's also how I got to know her, because she has been my wonderful teacher of intuitive painting since 2015. When she also published this fantastic book, Smart, that we'll all talk about. But without any further spoiling it, let me introduce you to Daniella. Welcome, Daniella.
Thanks, Rosaria. Wow, a super introduction. I'm like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, you do a lot. Yes, yeah. Indeed. So welcome. And the very first question, I now gave the kind of official one, but I always love to start my podcast asking my guest, who are you as human being? Who is Daniella?
Well, okay. Well, foremost, I consider myself, I'm mostly an artist. So that's normally what I would say, because that sort of like weaves into, everything that I do. But as a human being, I would have to say that I feel very grounded, in touch with the ground, and I also like, earth materials. I like to work with, with clay and with wood and with glass and so and at the same time I feel very connected to the other worlds, pockets of other worlds, the spiritual world. So I feel like I'm sort of like I'm like a mix, between heaven and earth. So that's who I feel really rooted as a human being. So that's a long answer maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. It's actually also very visual. And I'm thinking, so if you had to put an image to it, which image would you put to it?
Maybe like an enlightened clay. Maybe if there was a sort of like maybe like a transparent clay would be cool. Something that you could really just dig in and form, but then also have this like as this vessel that carries the light. So I don't know, maybe this has to be invented. So I also love invention. I love inventing things. And well, here, this would be a good one. So I don't know.
I have the feeling this might turn into a sculpture anytime down the line. You'll tell us.
Yeah.
You show to us. And then my next question to you, Daniela, is what is your definition of happiness?
Well, happiness to me is, again, this flow of energy. So just like this stream, of energy, and just like, radiates from inside to outside. And it's a feeling. So that's really my definition of happiness. But if I were to sum it up into a world, would maybe be this gratitude, so to have this gratitude for things, and this practicing gratitude is one that brings me always in the flow, and that brings me this feeling, of happiness, like, oh, I just so grateful for this, glass that it holds this water, and oh wow, here is this clear vessel. Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah, so I would say that that's really, yeah, my definition of.
I didn't know about that about you actually. So, do you regularly practice gratitude, and do you have a specific way in which you practice gratitude, or is yes simple, appreciating every
Simple.
little
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, just very simple. And sometimes I forget, many times I forget, and then when I pick it up, then it's like, oh yeah, everything is great, and everything is just so beautiful. Just it brings, for me, it brings it back down to, like the forms and the colors of things. I really just notice, everything, and it can just be so grateful for that. Where sometimes things can just be so like just so much, just life can be so much, and then just to enjoy the little things, it's just, yes, so beautiful.
Yeah, indeed it is, and
Yeah.
it brings us to the question of what is, and you kind of already shared it. What is the we I call it a yellow factor, that little thing that contributes to your happiness.
Mhm.
So, and I'm thinking, so in yellow factor we have identified the sunflower of happiness, where actually gratitude falls under smile, because that smile is for celebration and for gratitude.
I
But
like, yeah.
would you say that that is your yellow factor inward, what contributes the most to your happiness, or do you see any other factor here that contributes to your happiness?
Yeah, well, the smile is a big one, because it's and of course you're doing also the, the laughing. I always think of you also with the laughing, therapy. Um but so I love the smiling, and I love nature. Nature is a very big, it's that earth element for me. And play. Um so just really, just playing, just, life is playing, it's a game, we're meant to play. And sometimes I'm right in it, and sometimes I forget about it, but then that creates a lot of happiness and empathy. So the empathy, being able to sort of, be on the same playing field, with somebody, to just to read in to tune in. Yeah, so I would say those four.
And thus to
Yeah.
you. And what about how you contribute to others? Do you have awareness of what is your favorite way of contribute to other people's happiness?
I would say it's the same. I would say it's the same four. Really, this the smiling, the nature, and with the nature, I really like to use the clay again, because I work also individual, you know, with people to remember, ignite, the happiness, and inspiration, and then of course play, and then of course the empathy. Without empathy, you know, why bother, right? So
I'm thinking, so with intuitive painting, I always think also like intuitive painting is one of the elements that most contributes to my happiness in the past few years. And I always also wonder which element does it fit most into, and I often put it indeed on the play. But I know you mentioned there is also a lot of nature into it, because we use natural element, and we do. I remember starting always with the charcoal to really connect and get grounded. And there is empathy, because we connect to our heart. What is your point of view? How do you see it? Where intuitive painting, where does it fit? And actually, maybe for the audience, you want to share a bit more about what is intuitive painting?
yeah, so with intuitive painting, so you mentioned also the charcoal. So the charcoal and intuitive painting is very much in connecting with our intuition, and to bring that up to the surface. And so that's accessing our subconscious. But the intuitive painting is I differentiate it from, let's say, from a still life painting, where still life, you're getting the inspiration from external. So you're looking maybe at a tree, or you're looking at some sort of a still life scenario that you have set up. And then you're really looking, it's, by the way, very good practice as well. It's very good to train your eyes, and to see better. So definitely I'm not putting that down at all, because it's very valuable. But the difference with intuitive painting is that you're really starting from within. So you're starting with a color, with a movement, and just, filling the page with that, and then seeing what comes up. And that's then a way to really build up the intuition. Yeah. And there was another part of it. Oh, so the other part was that, because you were talking about with the charcoal drawing, the charcoal drawing is a nice way to start with the movement. So really like to let go and to be in our body. So that's why I often start with the charcoal. But sometimes I also start with clay, with creating something with, our hands, and also just, it's really, releasing our left hemisphere. Our left hemisphere is used so much, for just, our left has something, my computer came up, a pop-up, yeah, left hemisphere, something else to read, something to react to. No, but the left hemisphere is just so overly used. And then our right hemisphere is just not trained as much. So, it's a way to get our right hemisphere going with charcoal, with clay, also using the clay, on the paper, painting with clay, and then with paints, it's nice to get colors, or with crayons, with pastel, chalk, and so forth.
And do you have a specific also definition for intuition? And I tell you also, the reason for this question is that last Wednesday I started to do those intuitive painting type of acrylic painting for kids at my kids' school. And we started, I had to tell them what intuitive painting is. And surprisingly, they actually didn't know the word intuition. And I was like, maybe that's because kids are automatically intuitive or not. But it was funny to try and explain to them what is intuition, and also to let them start from this white paper. So do you have a definition there? And did you observe it with kids?
Well, with kids, maybe a word that's easier to get for them to use is feeling. Because they use a lot of, in school is, very much about thinking, and I think to make that shift to the feeling can be new. What do you feel about this? What do you feel with the color orange? And just to train that. So, and I think a lot with the intuitive artwork, intuitive painting, drawing, sculpture, it is really about, getting that feeling heard. Yeah. And talking about it, because again, I always talk that, like, 50% of creating art is to look at the art, to look at what's been created, and sometimes, it is hung up on the wall to look at, but it's not really looked at. You know what I mean? It's looked at like, oh, how pretty, wow, that's nice, that inspires me. But there's a lot of information there. And I think that's, for me, the, is the big part of intuitive painting. So it's really 50%. And I feel that, sometimes that part is forgotten.
And it's actually something that you cover in your SMART framework. So do you want to share with us a bit more what SMART stands for, and what's the role of reading in there?
Sure. So, okay. So SMART, I've got it too. Yeah. So the S is, creating a space. So you need to have a space of where to create. It needs to be a safe space. You need to have a time and space, so your phones are off and you're not distracted. So that's all about the space. And then the M is, is moving, getting the body and your energy flowing, because this flow is what is also needed to create and release the feelings, release the emotions, because the emotions are also, they're around our organs, they're around our whole body, so it's about releasing that. Then we have the A, which is, of course, art. So that is, whether it's the drawing, the painting, or the sculpture. What do we have there? Then we have the R, which is the reading. So that is really about this. It's a really important part here. So it's, equally important with all these parts, so as important as the art itself is the reading the art, just to take the time to look at it, and to look at it in such a way, that you're having a conversation with it, because the art becomes an entity. So like a person like you and me, we have the painting, the drawing, the sculpture, and we can have a conversation with it. And then the last is the T, which is then to track. So then we set a goal for ourselves that comes out from the art, and then we want to put it on a track. So put it in our calendar. So bring it again to our left hemisphere.
And you have used this framework also in business. Can you share with us how does that work also in business?
Well, it works the same. It works exactly the same way. So basically, there can either be a topic that's brought in to start this workshop, this team building event, or a full day event. It's brought as a topic, and then basically we move through these 5 phases. And then the last phase, of course, this track is what ties it back into the left hemisphere, which is then the accountability phase as well. So like, let's put it on our calendar, and these are real actionable items. Yeah. So it's something, what I like about this system is that it's it ties in full circle. So it's not like, okay, now we've done something really cool, and now we got all this information. Well, that was nice. Let's get back to work. You know what I mean? So, but it's more of like, okay, but those things that were brought up to the surface can now be brought into actionable items so that it lives in the daily work. So, and that was very important for me. Yeah.
And I guess they can become reminders as well. I mean, if I look at myself, the paintings, the intuitive paintings that I have, like this golden circle behind me, or the volcanic tree, or I have another one in front of me, which is an heart radiating that also represents an anchor. They are all reminders of how I want to feel, how I want to behave, who I want to be in the world, how do I express myself. And they remind me, oh, I need to be grounded right now, or in that circle, I have a support circle around me. I have this light shining in the middle. I want to keep shining my light, but around me, there are people that support me. So
yeah, exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that, because of course, when you hang the painting, then you do have that as a reminder, and you have as a reminder the whole process. So if either you did that alone, so it was your own process, and that you shared this with others in your team, or it's something that you created with others in your team, and so then you actually have the physical fingerprint, so to say, from the others in your team, because you can see the input from everybody. So sometimes it's a matter of collaboration together, and then you see, of course, that everybody brings something new to the table, and of course that's it's like brainstorming and throwing popcorn on the wall, that idea of throwing ideas out there and just building up. So it's the same thing with the painting. The paintings are always, and the intuitive paintings are always these build-ups of layer and layer and layer, which brings us then to the final layer, where where you feel there's something happening, there's something resonating with that layer. So yeah.
And I love that you mentioned that, because the process itself is also a critical element of it. And you mentioned the layers, that's one thing, the collaboration. The other one that for me was a really huge learning from intuitive painting is to trust the process. And
Yes.
every single time I get reminded of it. Like on Wednesday with the kids, was at some point one kid that just had a big black spot. And I was like, oh my God, at the end she will just have a big black spot. And instead, at the end, it turned out in a beautiful starry night. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot to trust the process. And it worked. So what's your experience with that? How easy do you see that people really let go and they actually do trust the process?
Yeah. I see that people really do, and and of course, I mean, you're saying that you see this big black dot, and maybe that has a big significance, you know what I mean? So maybe it's maybe for this child, it's it's huge. It's light, dark, it's proportion, it's space, it's volume, it's you know so I think the word judgment then comes to mind, is to also let go of that judgment. So it's trust the process, but also just let go. I mean, we don't know the journeys, that everybody is on, and to allow and to celebrate those journeys and allow those journeys to be. I think there's a lot of especially with art, I think there's a lot of judgment, and I think there's people are sometimes afraid, of what might be, coming out or something, and like, oh, it's better just to control it, and just that in the end it looks like you know a nice picture, but I think that's all part of the process, and yeah, and trusting.
Yeah, and it's beautiful also you say it, and that's exactly always what I experience while doing intuitive painting, and now even while talking about it, how those extra layers build up on each other. And indeed, it's a judgment that we have to let go. We don't know the journey. I love that. And what I also saw happening in the past is also the connection that does happen afterwards when you do the reading or where you share the stories of what
Yeah,
came up on that painting from your journey and you share it. I've seen some incredible stories of connection happen.
yeah, yeah. No, and I just want to also say, I mean, okay, I don't know how much time we have, and so I'm gonna let you trust that you have the timeline here, but I mean, just sharing something. I mean, so I have two boys. They're quite young. And they're 5 and 6.5, and I bring them to the studio, and they go nuts. And sometimes they just transform, and sometimes I also have the feeling like, oh yeah, maybe I need to steer a little bit, and then I just catch myself, and I'm like, no, they're, but they make an incredible mess, you know, but that's okay. That's I've got this great studio, and so that's okay. They can make an incredible mess, but that's part of it. So it's, and I think for them, they also have that release because in school, they can't, make this incredible mess and take all this paint and just, so I let that happen. Yeah.
And it's funny how sometimes they have limitations. Because then again, thinking about the kids at school, they were like, "Can we do this? Can we do that?" And I really had to tell them, "Yeah, here you can do anything. Just go on and feel free to use the page however you want." So sometimes you can really see how instead we give those limits to the kids.
Yeah.
And you run workshop with the kids as well. What's your experience there?
No, it's fun. I like to offer them, I like to always offer them like three different things. I like to offer them some drawing, some painting, some sculpture, again, the clay. And what I really love to do, which they're always like surprised about, is that they are allowed to combine them.
Mm.
So even though I have like set places, this is kind of the drawing area, and this is, or the collage area, and this is the painting area, and this is the clay area. I allow them to combine them, and then then they're there's especially there's some kids here that go to Montessori school, and then they're like really, that they keep them quite strict and not to make a mess with the different materials, which I understand. However, there is this amazing, what's the word? Creativity, and also, what's the word I'm thinking about?
Not contamination,
Invention. No, invention. Yeah,
invention. Okay.
yeah, which I'm also very big on.
How? Tell us a bit more about it.
Well, I love to like really like invent things. So I have 3 patents. I used to work as an industrial designer, corporate, And we designed actually new things. We invented new things, and I have also 3 patents from that. It's like really like in another life, it seems now, but I think I still carry that through in everything that I.
Yeah, because you bring that to every sculpture that you make. That's also like inventing, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. And also figuring out. So my big passion, what I'm working with right now is as an artist, as monumental art. So I make large scale art installations. You can see them on my Instagram account, but to do that, I use metals, I use wood, I use different materials, and it becomes they're structural, so they have to be really figured out, like how are they going to be held together, and if people climb them, they need to stand, So, but I love this monumental art too. So I don't know if now I'm going into another.
you
Yeah.
can go anywhere.
More about it. I can say more about it. So what I love about the monumental art is that I love to I just love to bring awareness of our world, and sometimes I use the term ecological art, more so that I like to bring awareness of also the fish and the oceans, and I have a whole series of this flying fish, these sculptures that I did, an 8-meter version, 4-meter version, and even in smaller jewelry size version. I'm not wearing it right now. I have to. Oh, here it is. So in smaller versions, jewelry size. Yeah, but so I did that more from this intuitive level, from just really subconscious, so not really thinking about what it is that I was doing, but all these forms kept coming, and they were forms of fish. So I kind of went with it. So I, just used my own process, and went really from it started as an intuitive painting, and then as I was reading this painting, I saw these fish forms, and that's actually how I started developing this project. But then large scale, because I like the idea of this being immersed in this world and really being confronted with these large pieces. So
Nice. And did you always have this passion, interest in art and sculpture, or is there a specific moment that you can pinpoint in your life when it actually started?
always, yeah, always. Um, I was always really playing with clay. I always had clay and drawing. My mother was at that time um, drawing a lot as well, and my father also liked to paint. My father has always been in the business world, but he always had this fascination with art. And my mother was working as a fashion designer, and so she was always also painting and drawing. So we always had these art tools around. But I was always the most interested in the clay, in building things, making things with my hand. I don't know. It's just I just love the three-dimensionality of it. I love to, look around, and that you could see, like, wow, that's like a whole nother piece right there. You
And
know?
then you explored that first next to your job because you went then for a corporate role. And then is it only in the last years that you brought it back and made it
Yeah.
become your life work?
Yeah, so it's funny. So I was I had two opposite directions. When I finished high school, I had really two directions that were kind of opposite from each other. One was more the industrial design fields, a little bit more commercial field, art director field, that whole area. And the other one was art therapy. So I followed the one first. So I went into the corporate. I studied industrial design, but as part of industrial design, there's a lot of art in there, a lot of sculpture in there. So but it's also quite technical. So I was in that world actually for 10 years in the corporate world as an industrial designer. And then I was kind of done with that. And then I remembered that I was so interested in the nonverbal art form. So in, art therapy. And then I went and I what was I doing? I think while I was still, oh my gosh, so many different degrees. I was still in the corporate. I still did technology management, so I went way into that whole world, and then then I went to the art therapy, and and when I started the program, I started the program because I was just fascinated with the psychology of art. So how does it work? How do the colors influence us, and the lines and the forms? And it was just a curiosity. It wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be an art therapist, but I really wanted to learn, about it. Um, and when I started the program, we had learned to create to diagnose through art. That's very much this reading, that I use in my process. But how to diagnose the paintings and the art, and I was just I was blown away, and that to me was really the whole passion about using this as a nonverbal art form, and then bringing this also to to businesses, to teams, so that they could all be on another playing field together. So it didn't matter about language. It didn't matter about if you were, very, very expressive or more internal, if you were, more quiet, that everybody's on the same playing field. Um, and that I found amazing.
Yeah, and connecting on a different level.
Yeah.
Super. It's like it's such a fascinating area, and I think we could go on and on and on and
Yeah.
exploring all the different areas. So we might have to have another episode. So
Yeah.
now we get into our final rapid fire round of questions. So those are very quick answer. The first thing that comes to mind. Which book changed your life?
Dr. Zeus, go dog go.
Oh, nice. Something something that people often get wrong about you.
People think that I'm a vegetarian, but I love vegetables, but I eat everything. Yeah.
The last show you binged and loved.
Um, Stranger Things.
Oh gosh, I can't get to watch it. My husband will look at it. I'm like, I find it too scary.
Oh no, because I love all the different worlds. I love the openings into different worlds. That's
That I love too. So, and that
yeah.
is why I love Manifest, or I loved Once Upon a Time, because they had all those different
Yes.
world level. Cool. What's on your nightstand?
A huge amethyst crystal, which I got as a gift once for my birthday, and a sketchbook, a notebook.
Nice.
Yeah.
And a snapshot of an ordinary moment in life that brings you true joy and happiness.
Oh gosh, yeah. I do a lot of adventures with my kids. So I bring them everywhere, and I love and that. So to experience different things, getting nice and dirty,
Cool.
mud, clay. Yeah.
And then finally, fill in the blanks. What does happiness contributions means to you?
To spread the light, to spread, to spread good energy. Yeah.
Nice one. And what can we still do as individuals and as leaders to increase our happiness contribution, both inward and outward?
So anything that brings us closer to our intuition, anything that allows our intuition to flow. So practicing gratitude is an easy one.
Cool. And I
Yeah.
guess that's maybe similar, or you can say something else. What is your final golden nugget that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah. Golden nuggets. So um, I think keeping a sketchbook would be like the big golden nugget that I would offer. And to do it in such a way that it's so not precious. Not that it's like this leather bound sketchbook, which is so precious and it has to be perfect what I put inside, but just like a cheapo notebook, lines, no lines, doesn't matter. And then just to experiment with different materials, just whatever you have on your desk is fine. But just to experiment in such a notebook with writing, with drawing, I think that would be like the biggest golden nugget. Like,
And I love that you mentioned that it doesn't have to be luxurious, but because it's like one of the key things that we didn't get to talk about that I loved from your classes is to use paper, not canvases to do instead painting, but just paper. And that made such a difference for me on how I was able to let go. So that's a very, remarkable one. I don't know if you want to add anything on that.
Yeah, because sometimes, we can just be stopped because of that the material is too precious. Is what we're going to do on it, is it worth that material? You know what I mean? And of course, canvas is also fine, but sometimes we just have that, we're just programmed. Not everybody, but many people are programmed that, it's an expensive canvas and it's got to be ready to hang up in the museum. So because canvases belong in the museum. So whatever you hang up got to be like museum ready. And that's just not true. But, that's sort of like many people have this, many people don't. Many people are like, but many people have this thing of like, ooh, canvas needs to be, so work on paper, work on newspaper, work on just get it out and don't let the materials be a barrier to your expression.
Get free. No, I love it. Thank you so much. That's another fantastic golden tip. Thank you, Daniella. So where can people reach or find you if they want to know more about you?
I think the best is on Instagram. I'm not so much on Facebook. Instagram is great, or they can just contact me directly. But on Instagram, it also has my information.
Cool.
Yeah. And my website, of course. Yeah.
We'll have it in
the website, but yeah.
Yeah, we will have your website and Instagram and everything in the show notes. So it's there. Thank you so much. I'm really happy we spread a bit of a lot of nice, colorful tips about intuitive painting. So thank you for being with us, Daniella.
Yeah, but thank you, Rosaria, for doing this. Thank you for this show. And thank you for being this ball of sunshine, as you always say. You really are. And I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. This was all for today's episode. I am Rosaria, and I am committed to bring more happiness into the world, one customer and one employee at a time, by empowering companies to achieve growth, productivity, and profits by cultivating happiness. If I can be of any help or support to you and your company with my advisory, keynotes, sessions, training programs, intuitive painting classes with Daniella, I would love to hear from you, so get in touch. In the meantime, keep following our podcast, taking care of your well-being and connecting and radiating from the heart. Thank you, and until the next episode. This was the Happiness Contribution Show, available on YouTube as webcast and on your favorite channels as podcast. If you like the show, we would appreciate if you share it with one person that may benefit from it too. Subscribe to our channel and tune in for the next episode. You can find all the episodes and discover more happiness contribution tips on our website, happinesscontribution.com. That's all for today. Stay happy and healthy and nurture happiness contribution.